So today we're talking about 5 things you should consider when you're purchasing a duplex. Now, I'm thinking about things that are going to make this rental property a success for you as the landlord. Typically, when I'm working with investors and landlords, they're considering, what most people think about: the area that the property's in, the purchase price, what type of rent that property is going to get. But what they don't consider is, once they have purchased the property and they're renting it out to tenants, is that a desirable rental for tenants? Are you going to get the best selection of tenants possible? Or are you going to be scrounging for, just trying to fill the vacancy? To me, the success of this business is about finding really good quality tenants. And so these are 5 things that I always look at when I'm looking at a duplex, whether I'm converting it or I'm purchasing it turnkey, to make sure that this property has this so tenants will have a good experience in your property, pay their rent on time, and have 0 complaints. So let's start with number 1. The first is, where is that entrance for the tenant? So you have a couple options. You can have raised bungalows where you have both people coming into the front door. I don't mind this, but again, sometimes it creates a friction or area where both people are coming into that front area. There's 2 front doors. There's sometimes a common area, and then they go up a couple stairs and there's a front door down into a basement level where they're sharing a common area. I don't want my tenants sharing anything. The other common one that you'll see is a rear entrance. Don't like these at all. I try to avoid these as much as I can. Why? Because then the tenant has to go into the backyard, and unless you have a good setup with the backyard, you're now having, normally you want to give that upper tenant the backyard. You're going to want to, you can't do that with that rear entrance. So what I prefer is a side entrance. So duplex with the side entrance, your upper tenant has the front entrance, your basement tenant has a side entrance. It gives that separation. It allows the tenant in the upper unit to take that backyard either completely to themselves, or we'll talk about another strategy, which is separating the backyards, in a second. The second big one now is parking. Is there 2 parking spots for your basement tenant? So a lot of times, because of these styles of bungalows, when you're buying a duplex, your upper unit will have 2, 3, even 4 spots for your upper unit. That's usually not an issue. They're nice big long driveways that run along the side of the house. The issue is where you put in your second spot for your tenant. There's normally only 1 spot. This limits your tenant selection big time. I want 2 people working. I want 2 incomes. Which a lot of times means 2 cars. So for the basement that has 2 parking spots, is going to open up to a higher quality tenant. Sometimes homes just sit too far close to the property line, which doesn't allow that. There are some creative strategies, but if you can find it where you have your upper tenant having 2 to 3 spots and your basement having a minimum of 2 spots, to me, it's going to be a more successful rental for you. Number 3 is, when you're looking at the property, does it have either A, 200 amp panel, or B, already separate meters? One of the benefits of the utilities is, with hydro, is you can get the tenants to put the hydro in their own name. This is always preferred that they take that on. The hydro company bills the tenants directly. So if there's 200 amp panel, it's easier to convert to 2 100 amp panels, as opposed to having to call the hydro company to bring in an extra 100 amp. That's going to cost you more money, and you're not really going to see a return on that money as far as the ARV or even the rental amount. But you would then have the ability to ask your tenants, hey, you have your own separate meters, put the electricity, put the hydro in your own name, saves the tenant a lot of headaches. It also gives you the option to rent, having your rent just plus hydro. Instead of rent plus, you're going to separate the utilities 60-40. So again, giving yourself less work as a landlord is always a bonus. The 4th one I have is, and I hinted on this earlier, is if you could have backyard space for both people. This one's tricky. Depending on the backyard, depending on where the entrance is, depending on where the walkway is to that entrance for your basement tenant, there are some properties where you can have a fence essentially right down the center of the property, where each party could have half of the backyard. So to me, I either prefer that if it's possible, or I want the upper to have it. The upper is typically going to get more rent, but it really does hurt you when you're going to rent that basement unit out and there is no green space for that basement tenant, no backyard space for that basement tenant. Some people will just choose not to view your unit or not to rent your unit. Again, this is what we're trying to avoid. Last but not least, if I'm looking at a legal 2 unit or I'm looking at converting something, I want dishwashers and private laundry. So I know it may seem like a minor thing, but tenants love these. Tenants want to see their own dishwashers. I can't tell you how many times a tenant has walked into a property and go, oh, a dishwasher. And they're excited about it. And it is a feature that they notice. They look for it when they're coming to look at the property. I know landlords don't like always putting dishwashers in. They think it's an extra appliance that could leak, that could cause problems, an extra expense, more headache for them. But again, in my mind, I'm always looking for the best quality tenant, and something as simple as, having a dishwasher for that upper and basement unit and having separate laundry really, gives you that much better quality tenant that will rent your unit. Shared laundry spaces, I don't like. You'll see that a lot of times where you'll go down in the basement, there'll be a little bit of an area where both people can use one set of laundry. Again, I think you're going to get a lower quality tenant with that. So those are 5 things that I consider, or I look at, that are outside of the norm, outside of, your curb appeal, your finishes, your flooring, your kitchen, how much work it needs. Those are a lot of times what people look at initially, but these are some minor things that hopefully will help you in your journey when you're looking for legal 2 units or purchasing something to convert to a legal 2 unit so that you get the best quality tenant possible. So thanks for watching. I hope those tips helped. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please throw them in the comments. Happy to answer them for you.